12.5% of men in the UK are suffering from one of the common mental health disorders. One adult in 6 has a common mental disorder, e.g. depression, anxiety, phobia, obsessive compulsory disorder, and panic disorder. 3 times as many men as women die by suicide.
Guys, my name is Nazir, Nas for short. I'm 20, born and raised in London, and but originally from Nigeria, Yoruba, so Bawani and them things there, you know what I mean? But I'm currently 3rd year at University of Nottingham, studying product design and manufacturing engineering. I was actually on the ACS committee last year as a creative director, so it's lovely to be back on the face, you know. It's great to be here, giving back where I can. Moving on. So I have struggled with anxiety and panic attacks for the past, let me say, 5-6 years. Looking back on it now, I would say, obviously I only highlighted it as an issue of mine, or actually highlighted it as anxiety diagnosed, let's say that, in the past year or so, past 12 months, maybe less than that. I'd only really taken it seriously, say, in the past, this new year, basically. It's been difficult. I mean, I'm only starting to even adjust to it in the past year or so, because beforehand I'd really had no clues what's still going on. You know, everybody would say, you get anxious, this and that, but I never knew there was something called anxiety disorder, or that other things such as anxiety attacks and panic attacks. So I guess it's helped me come to terms with it in a way, and actually being able to deal with it, because I actually know what it is, and I'm actually dealing with the roots of that anxiety. But yeah, telling friends and family, that was a bit of it was hard, because obviously being a black male, African male, from a Christian background, it's not easy. It's not easy to really open up like that. Obviously, you should be comfortable to open up in front of your family and friends, and within the body of Christ, me as a Christian, you should be able to be free and to open up. But there's a lot of cultural aspects, which is why people aren't really able to do so. And obviously just the way society's built up, men aren't to really show feelings and that. So I was never really a guy to really show how I was on the inside. Yeah, you may see me on the outside laughing, bubbly, all of that, joking about, but I was never the guy who would be, who would tell you how I'm properly feeling. So open up to family and friends. I mean, it only got to the point whereby I was actually completely broken, that I actually opened up to friends and family, told them the truth. Obviously, I knew bits and bobs of what I would tell them. Obviously, I'm struggling a bit here and there. And of course, throughout the years, I would say my immediate family, so my brother, sister, my mum, would know a bit about it, because, my anxiety attacks, which I didn't know about at that point, would take me to numerous doctor's appointments, A&E, to see what was wrong with me, because of the physical side of the anxiety, panic attacks, yeah. But it's been freeing, I would say. It's definitely been freeing, because, I know I'm not struggling through it alone. People have had the experience with it, and also I know I have that support system there now. Again, leading back from what I was talking about in terms of the communities that I am in as a black man, black Christian man from Africa. There's a lot of stigmas with mental health. It's not something which is really discussed so much. It's getting a lot better, but it's not. It's still a little bit taboo in some areas, and obviously within the church as well. And obviously within African churches as well, it's always always pray. And don't get me wrong, as a Christian now, as I'm growing now, I understand how important prayer is, but we can't detach ourselves from our issues. We actually do have to deal with our issues head on. And so if we're just saying, pray, and never talk about anything, never discuss, open ourselves up to people around us, then that's how people end up suffering in silence, because they feel like as though people are going to just shut them off when they want to speak out on it. which is a real issue. But it's something which we're getting better at, and we can only get better now. We can't go back, but we can only move forward and get better now. And again, the whole thing with like, mental health and therapy. Again, I am also beginning to look to therapy now, but in previous years, it was a thing which was seen as though like, if you're getting therapy, it means you're crazy, you're mad, you're going to a crack den, you just got something wrong with you. And I mean, obviously, like, we don't want to be anxious, but it's a normal part of life. Like, I mean, in terms of people have different issues, and of course, the same way which you'll go to a hospital for a doctor, you should go to, get your mental health right with a therapist or whoever they are that is equipped to do so. We shouldn't see it as such a big issue, but it is getting better at least. And my anxiety today, I would say, like, it has humbled me a lot in terms of my walk with God. It has made me rely upon him a lot because, obviously you can talk to people, all this and that, but if I don't have my hope in him first, then I don't know how I would have made it to where I am now. Like, looking back on the past year through this lockdown period, and people know it's been stressful, right? It's been difficult, it's been tasking, mentally, physically, financially, in every single aspect. It's really pulled us, stretched us apart, innit? So yeah, having my faith in God right now, trusting in him, it's been good, and it's humbled me to know that, like, when it comes down to it, it's only him. It's only him that you can really look to rely on. So in that sense, it's made me humble. It has brought up a lot of character. I'm a lot stronger because of it. Persevered. I can get through a lot of those things which now would have, shaken me to the core. And now, like, I'm not saying that it's not like I worry. Obviously, you can worry for a little bit, but now I don't worry as much. Like, I'm a lot more at peace because of being through certain situations. So, I don't think having suffered with anxiety has been negative. It's not been in vain. It's, being for the good, it's being for the better. I'm stronger because of it. I have a better outlook on life because of it. So, and it's brought me close to God because of it. So, and it's also allowing me with my experiences to now speak out on it like I am now today, and help others that have struggled with it so they don't have to go through the same things that I went through, or at least they have someone there to help them out. So it's made me a better man. At least it's made me into a man. I was a boy before, but it's making me into a man. So I thank God for that. But yeah, I would continue speaking on it for all the days of my life and trying to help who I can. But thank you.
So my name is Chuks, 20 years old, from Nigeria, former ACS committee member. Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is, what is your diagnosis / mental illness, and how did you adjust to life with it? So, like, telling family, how did you like adapt to life with your mental illness?
So basically, I suffered with anxiety, and that was very like situational. So like it was to do with kind of like my future and like next steps, especially like after uni and things like that. So I didn't really know at the time that I was like I had it, or I was like suffering from it. And then I must have like gone to church one time in like second year, end of second year, so like last year. And the pastor was saying something, so someone was saying something, and it kind of made me deep, like, oh, like, rah, this is actually what this is, you know what I mean? And after deep in it, it was like a big emotional feeling, like, I was crying bare, because I was deep in it, like, oh, rah, like, this is what I have, and like, this is what it's doing to me. Like, you deep all the symptoms that you've been expressing and exhibiting, and you're like, oh, so this is attributed to like anxiety. So like, yeah, and dealing with it on like, did you say dealing with it on
the dealing with it, like adjusting to life with it, and telling people?
So when I told my mum, it was a thing like, me and my mum, uni brought us closer, so we weren't really, like, the relationship with my mum is weird. It's like, because some people are bare close to their parents, innit? With me, I'm close to my parents, but it's not something that I'll be like telling her everything every day, you know what I mean? But when I told her, I was crying on the phone to her, and she was listening, and she was understanding, which is weird for me, because for the most part, if I was telling my mum something like, oh, this is how I feel, whatever, she'd be like, oh, just make sure you're doing your work, da 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 da, like, you know how African parents are, innit? That we're here for a reason, sort of thing. But she was listening, and it was quite supportive as well, and so that was good. on a daily basis, it was just a thing where like I had to remind myself that these are where these negative thoughts are coming from, and try and stop them as they come and not let them take over, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, what other stigmas attached to your mental illness, and with them stigmas, did that affect the way you looked at yourself or your illness?
Okay, so with my one is like, so obviously it was to do my future, so it's like a stigma of that could be like, oh, like you don't know what you're doing, so like you're not serious, if you know what I mean. So people can be thinking, oh, you're not serious, or they think like, so you've been here for so long, especially in university for like nearly 3 years now, and you still don't know what you're doing, so like you're not serious, sort of thing. Or you have no ambitions and things like that. But I know that I did, but that's like something that would hinder me from speaking out or talking to other people about it, you know what I mean? So yeah, also as a man as well, like a black man, it was tough because like we're meant to be strong apparently because of like all this social whatever. So it was tough speaking out, sort of thing. And like even when I did speak to my mum, she kind of still has this mentality that, oh, as a man, like especially because my dad's not in the house, innit, so I'm meant to be the man of the house, so I was meant to like, stay strong for my brothers, etc, innit. So it's still like that kind of idea that she had going on, but like she was still helpful, like I said before, innit. What was the second part of the question, sorry?
Second part is how does it make you feel about yourself?
Oh, at first I did feel like unserious, or I did feel like unambitious, but I kind of like overcame that. Like, so after that whole church service that happened, I kind of like started deeping it and getting closer to God or whatever, getting like myself organised, and I kind of deep that like that's not what it is. Like people go through those kind of phases or periods. Like there's people who are further than I am who still don't know what they're doing, and I think comparison is one thing as well that really like did me dirty too. Because like for example, I'll be on LinkedIn and you'll be seeing everyone posting on LinkedIn doing all this, doing all that, internship here, grad job here, grad scheme, this, that, or whatever. And I was just sitting there. I do biochemistry in it, so there's not much that you can do in terms of internships, especially like if I didn't want to work in a lab, which I don't, that I have nothing to do, you know what I mean? So it was kind of a thing where like, in terms of next steps, there was not much. So I kind of felt like inadequate, but I kind of overcame that, yeah.
Okay, what were your coping mechanisms, and like what helped you to like, especially with your panic attacks, what helped you, or like did people help you, stuff like that?
With me, I'm a very sociable person, so like being in the presence of other people kind of helped me, but that's kind of like two-sided, because like while I'm with other people, it'll make me feel good and I feel like happy or whatever, distract me from the problem, but when you go on your own, you kind of have time to deep like everything again. But by utilising like the support systems that I had around me, like talking to my friends, talking to my parents, even PlayStation and basketball, like, and making music, stuff that I like to do, those kind of like distracted me, took me into my own world, sort of thing. So like I was just able to like ignore what was going on, sort of thing, and like, yeah.
So the last question is, how was it living with your mental illness, and how has it shaped you as an individual today?
Living with it was, I feel like to say living with it was kind of like says that I don't have it anymore, which is true, but I feel like there's still like symptoms or thoughts here and there. But I wouldn't say that I suffer from anxiety right now, but I can say that there's periods of time where I'm anxious, if you know what I mean. So right now I would say living with it is better, because before I'll just be wallowing, I'll just be in my room like days on end. I'll just be in my room, no one will see me, no one will hear from me, even my housemates, and so I'll just be baking, just doing nothing literally. But now I'm in a much better mental space. I'm able to talk to people around me. Like things that before would have acted as triggers to like anxiety or like anxiety attacks don't really trigger me like that anymore, like because again I do negative thought tracking and like stopping them as well. So what was the second part of the question again?
Second part was just that, how has it shaped you?
Okay, so right now I would say it makes me more knowledgeable and like more aware of what other people might be going through as well. Like before uni I feel like people would agree that I had this stigma that mental illness was fake, like people just need to grow up, like you know what I mean, like everyone was coming out and saying, oh, I'm depressed, I'm this, I'm that, and I was thinking like, what? And then it hit me and I was like, oh well, like that's mad. But now I am more mindful of like what other people are going through. I'm more mindful of myself as well, like taking it easy on myself, not comparing myself to anybody else, because that's like a really bad thing that people do. I feel like just planning your time as well, planning what you have ahead of you, but at the same time remembering that like, you can plan as much as you want, but life is life and God is God. Like, it's not really up to you, sort of thing. Like, you can plan X, Y, Z, but it's not gonna happen at the end of the day if it wasn't written to happen. So, you have to just do what you can. Really, you have to take responsibility and accountability where you can, and where it's not really up to you, then it's not up to you, innit? So, things that I'm experiencing now that I would have experienced last year I would have reacted to them much worse than I am now. So I'm more able to cope now. So thank God for that. So.
Quickly, I just want to ask, you said about the stigmas attached with like men and mental health.
Yeah.
Do you mind going a bit more in detail about that? Because I know a lot of people betray men to be manly, and like when men do come out and say they're feeling this type of way, society normally just neglects them. And how can we try to overcome that?
I feel like, in terms of men, so answering the last part of the question first, in terms of like overcoming that, I feel like that's a conversation that men need to have with other men, sort of thing, and like people who also have influence and power to make changes. Because like, in terms of like social justice and things that people go through like on a daily basis, I feel like we can all have conversations, and like us, we're very knowledgeable people. Like, yeah, we're knowledgeable, so we already know these things. But I feel like there's people who are in places of more power who don't know. So those are the people that we need to be talking to and communicating with. And also there's circles of people who are all probably not as educated, not to like make us sound smart or whatever, but like not as educated or don't know as much about like these kind of things. So they need to be educated as well. In terms of men's mental health, I feel like gender roles as a result of like the patriarchy and things like that have like kind of, it's like double-edged sword towards like men, for example. So we're meant to act strong and be providers of the house, but whatever, like do all this stuff, like acting as like the strong head or whatever. And as a result of that, you're not really allowed to show or be vulnerable or show like your flaws or anything that would go against that like strong core like image. So it's tough, but I feel like in navigating that is again tough, because like I feel like in order to tackle problems like that, you have to tackle the main issue, which again is the patriarchy. But again, that's very hard for us to do, as like we're just people, like we're just here, you know what I mean? And it's been there for so long, so it's tough to do that. But I guess we can try and like tackle these problems small, like bit by bit, like focus groups, talking to other people, just little things like that. So yeah.
So with you, how did you deal with that? Like, how did you overcome that and speak out about your anxiety?
Okay, so with me, I was kind of like harbouring it in. Like, obviously I didn't actually know that that's what it was at first, but like, when I realised, it made me also realise that I wasn't alone, you know what I mean? Like, there was people who were going through the same thing, like my housemates, and I then realised that, oh, so it's more common than I actually think it is, and this is what it actually is. And somebody had come out with the same thing as me, and we were able to talk, we had conversations, people were suffering with a similar thing, and in that like community, we were able to talk and overcome that together, find like things that helped each other, because everyone exhibits or manifests their like symptoms differently, and everyone like gets treated or gets helped differently. Is that like different things will help different people. So I was just lucky to find a group of people who could be helped by similar things. So for me, it was like talking to God to get right with my faith and like planning my life properly, sort of thing. But for another person that might not work, but that's just what I was able to do, so yeah.
So do you mind just going through with us how like, what you go through when you're having a panic attack?
So I wouldn't say like I had panic attacks per se, but like an anxiety like episode, I guess. For example, like I can know that I have a deadline due, or like I'm meant to be revising, or I'm meant to be doing something, but I actually don't care. And like the coping mechanisms that I had employed, I'm not doing those either. So I'm just sitting there, like I said before, just doing nothing, laying in bed, thinking about things I shouldn't be thinking about, because it's not in my power to change it. So yeah, that can come with other things. Like, people won't talk about it, but I know there's people who they won't shower for like 3 days. I was one of those people, I'll be so honest with you. Like, you were just sitting there, like laying there in your bed, waking up, sleeping, and you just be doing that for days on end. You won't be eating properly. You won't be talking to people. My housemates, like I said before, they won't hear from me. They'll be like, oh, where's Chuks in the group chat? I'll come downstairs like eventually, and I'll be like, oh yeah, like yo, and I'll go back to my room, and go back and start sleeping. So things like that. And then when I finally do get outside, I'll just be normal again. Like I'll just be happy and smiling, and I'll come back and be doing the same thing again. So yeah, things like that. And then, like I said before, just not doing my work until the very, very last minute, then doing it, then feeling drained, and then going back to do the same thing. So yeah.
So you spoke about your dad not being in the picture. Do you think that contributed, or that affects the way you look at your anxiety or like other mental illnesses?
So with my dad not being in the picture, it was kind of a thing where, like, as the oldest son as well, I was really perceived as like having to be the strongest in the house to like kind of uphold everybody else. So it was a thing where, like, again, being the first person to go to university as well, it was like, oh, like, I actually have to make it, I just have to do well, otherwise it's long for everyone else, you know what I mean? So it was kind of added pressure mounting on top. And then even having to think, like, my mum, like, obviously a single parent, struggled so much. Like, I can actually sit here for like hours just talking about what she's been through, and that's just what I know. But even just thinking now, like, oh, I have to make it up to her now, like, I have to like make sure that she's done it like for a good cause. Like, we know our parents are not asking for, I've done this for you, now you have to do this for me, but that's like what it feels like, you know what I mean? And I guess that might be a bit of pride as well, but it's a thing where, like, I want to make sure that my parents didn't do anything in vain. So even that itself is added pressure. But those kind of things kind of like added to the anxiety, and my dad not being in the picture probably indirectly affected me as well. Like, I can't really specifically say how, because like I'm not sure how things have manifested themselves in, like, as opposed to how they manifest themselves in other people, but I'm sure that it has somehow, because I feel like me as a person, not to like be rude or like play down other people, but I think I turned out all right. So I feel like it's definitely expressed itself in other places, like micro aggressions or micro ways sort of thing. So like in small places. Yeah.
So as a confident person, and you're quite outspoken, you're quite sociable, you spoke about being sociable, how did that like affect your anxiety? Because people don't really perceive confident people to have like mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression. So how did that affect you, especially telling your friends that, oh, I suffer with anxiety?
So with me, I feel like I was kind of like a common face, like especially in my university and like further like beyond sort of thing. Like, people knew me, but I'm not saying I'm big or anything, but people knew me. And I was always like smiling, always happy, like, and that's because, like I said before, in social situations they kind of like fuel me. I don't want to say like, oh, I'm some crackhead or something, but like they make me happy. Like, being around my friends and people that I know makes me happy. So I was always smiling, and that was like my release. But as people look at me like that, they perceive me as to be a person who's confident, perceive me to be a person who's like all handy dandy, nonchalant, nothing's really affecting this guy sort of thing. I feel like that contributes to it, because like it's not their fault, but people need to be mindful of what could be going on behind closed doors. Like, that smiley face, that bouncing around, that sociable person, it could be a front, and it could be like there's things going on in the background that you don't know about. And having to uphold that stereotype of being that person that's always happy, always checking on other people, always talking to other people, popping up, smiling, laughing, like having to uphold that is draining as well. Like, sometimes you're not actually allowed to be upset, you know what I mean? Because if I want to, let's say there'll be a day where I'm just not feeling it, you know what I mean, about being public, and if I'm not smiling, everyone will be like, oh, what's wrong with Chuks? Like, well going? And I'm not that kind of guy that I want people to be pitying me and asking me questions up and down, but I'm upset, or I'm not happy, or I'm just not feeling me, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's not anything that's happened that's made you upset, but you're just not feeling it, you're flat. So that'll be me sometimes, and I don't want people to be coming asking me questions, but like they're gonna have to, because they notice that I'm not myself. And so having to uphold that smiley bouncing around thing is draining as well, and it's like you're not allowed to be sad. So yeah, it contributes to it, and I think people need to think more about what's going on behind the scenes. When they see certain type of behaviours, you need to think about like, oh, what could be going on here? Not saying that you should be doing introspection on everyone you meet, but like you should check on your friends, like that person that's always smiling, always checking up on you, man, like what's actually going on with them, you know what I mean? So yeah.
If you have been affected by any of these issues raised in this video, please do not hesitate to contact any of these helplines or contact the ACS.